Good morning, everyone. I, Shreya Sen, am a doctoral candidate at the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences here at IIT Gandhinagar. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to our participants, to the delegation from the University of Saskatchewan, to the organizers of the Winter Institute in Digital Humanities, to our student coordinators and faculty of IIT Gandhinagar, to our guest of honor, Dr. Prachi Kaul, Director of the Shastri Indo-Canadian Institute, Dr. Sudhir Jain, the Director of IIT Gandhinagar, and to our lovely audience here today. We are pleased to announce the official launch of the Winter Institute in Digital Humanities, a collaborative initiative between IIT Gandhinagar and the University of Saskatchewan, which aims to initiate an interdisciplinary dialogue on digital studies. The workshop has been supported by the Shastri Indo-Canadian Institute and MHRD. The Winter Institute shall provide an introductory approach to the digital humanities through lectures on theoretical developments in the field and hands-on engagement with key digital tools and methods. The aim is to open threads and potential areas of reflection in digital studies and develop critical approaches and pedagogic methods specific to India and Canada in order to explore changing contours of what may be termed as the digital turn in civilizations. The school begins with a discussion on print cultures and moves through digital texts and contexts. The Winter Institute has received participation from all over the country and across diverse disciplines who have an interest in developing their future goals in thematic areas that concern the emerging field of digital studies. The resource materials have been designed by scholars from diverse academic disciplines like humanities, social sciences, policy research, computer science, and electrical engineering. Invited lectures and keynotes shall inaugurate fresh perspectives on the idea of technological mediation in several fields stated above. I would now like to request Dr. Annapurna Rath, a faculty member in Literature and Language Studies, Humanities and Social Sciences, IIT Gandhinagar, for the formal welcome and thematic introduction of the Winter School.
Before I begin, may I request Professor Sudhir Jain and Dr. Prachi Kaul to kindly come and join us on the podium for the formal start of the session. So, please. All right. Okay. A very warm, wintry good morning to all of you. I hope most of our participants, our speakers, our guests from University of Saskatchewan and elsewhere in the world are now better rested and they have taken as much of rest as possible. And so this is the beginning of the session. Professor Sudhir Jain, Director of IIT Gandhinagar, Dr. Prachi Kaul, our guest of honor and Director of Shastri Indo-Canadian Institute, Professor Raj Srinivasan, Professor of Mathematics. Raj, may I request you to kindly join us on the podium? Professor of Mathematics at the University of Saskatchewan, and the leader of the delegation from Canada that is here for these 2 weeks at IIT Gandhinagar. Professor James Clifford, who is my co-organizer of the Winter Institute in Digital Humanities. Professor Jatin Naik, he is here. He is our first keynote speaker this morning. Professor Surya Pratap Mehrotra, Dean of External Affairs, and colleagues, dignitaries from different parts of the country and different parts of the world who are joining us, colleagues from IIT Gandhinagar. Thank you so much for making it during a vacation season. I think across India we have vacation. Thank you so much for coming and being a part of this entire, this Malgudi as I'm calling it. So thank you so much. Professor Amit Prashant has sent his good wishes to all of us. He is the Dean of Research and Development, and he is the one who has been leading it from behind in terms of getting this entire program ready, and the R&D office, which has been so supportive to our endeavors. He is traveling for a couple of days and he will be joining us in the second week of the Winter Institute, and he has said that he will be coming for some of the panels then. It gives me immense pleasure and almost a sense of pride, actually, to welcome each one of you to this Winter Institute in Digital Humanities. Uh, I welcome you to be a part of a new history that is in the making. And I mean whatever I'm saying in terms of history in the making. I say history in the making because diverse disciplines, different standpoints, diverse points of views are going to come together in one platform during these 15 packed days of different kinds of thinkers, thought process, and ideological terrains that we are going to cover. Our participants and student coordinators are particularly the driving force in this Winter Institute because they have been the ones who were leading it from the front. I'm particularly grateful to my colleagues from electrical engineering and computer sciences. Particularly, I must mention Professor Anirban Dasgupta and Uttama Lahiri, who have contributed to this institute through their constant advice, their suggestions, and through their intellectual contributions in terms of their lectures and as well as in terms of backup support whenever I have needed them. Neeldhara particularly because her work in terms of her entire communication team, which has been helping me all through these process, not simply as a part of their support system, but more like a front end support system, which is leading me through this with some bit of peace as much as I can. My colleagues in humanities and social sciences are contributing their lectures to this course. Yesterday, I have already presented a 30-minute course map of the philosophy of the Winter Institute and the steps that has led us to this one moment. It has started with a very humble, small course with 4 students, as I have mentioned, and that has grown into something which is almost a magnum opus, and I call it as Sahib Bibi Gulam. My foray into digital studies has been through serious concerns, and concerns regarding the way this area can be led and misled in classrooms across India and other parts of South Asia, where we are not getting limited to simply research articles, but more into how this entire thought process can be integrated into our everyday discussions and to more intellectual pursuits of pedagogy. There are pitfalls of every new thought when carried into the classroom, especially in the Indian context. And I'm using India as a grand narrative here, where there are rich cultural and intellectual vagaries. There are differences, there are thought processes, there are ideological terrains which are different as well. When we encourage our students to be a part of a WhatsApp conversation, or when we are discussing social media in our classrooms with our professors, where do we draw the line? Is there a line of ethics? Is there a line of thought processes? Is there a line is there a limitation at all? There are several cultural and academic nuances, including art, literature, including philosophy associated with it, ethics, that every academic, the moment we take up our responsibilities as professors or as teachers, we are charged to follow the day we take our own convocation. And when we take that walk, there are questions regarding perspectives where we draw lines and limitations. So these are some of the larger questions that have driven us through this entire process. How can scholarship in India, and that's something that I'm particularly interested in, how can scholarship in India benefit from new mediums and changing terrains of technology? What happens to disciplines and traditional subjects such as history, cultural studies, literature, philosophy, when they go through a transformation with new mediums and new media? These are the larger questions that I factor in as a part of my vision for this course. I have to particularly mention my student and my co-organizer, Shivani Sharma, who has been through this various shades of emotions while I was preparing for this course. I could not have done this without her support. The entire set of coordinators, particularly Ashwin, Shreya, Hatim, Devarsh, Dipesh, are my life force through this entire 3 months that has taken us to reach this moment when we didn't want you to go through any difficulties. So, one thing that we had made sure and we had promised ourselves is that we will not lead you through any problems when you are in the campus. And I hope that most of our participants would accept that. I hope you will find some of the thought nodes today and other days through these courses, through the course of these 15 days, enriching, and that some of these thought nodes you are going to take back home, take back to your institutions, develop it at your own pace and at your own speed. Uh, I'm particularly grateful to Professor Jain, who has been very quietly following us all through these days, and who has a very unique style of observing us while we are working. It is not that he tells you things, but he will let you to do your work, and he at the end of it he observes what you have been doing at different points of views, and that's his style, and that's something that I have deeply appreciated all through. I'm particularly indebted to Shastri Indo-Canadian Institute and to MHRD because they have accepted an initiative which is so diverse and which is so interesting in its own ways, promising, but at the same time daunting in terms of its execution. Thank you so much, and I hope that with this, the formal session would begin, and I would request Shreya to take over. And I hope you are going to enjoy all these 15 days that you are with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, I would like to welcome Dr. Jim Clifford, a faculty member in history at the University of Saskatchewan. He's also the lead collaborator of the Winter Institute.
Thank you very much. So on behalf of the University of Saskatchewan delegation, I'd really like to welcome all of you here. Your attendance makes this Winter Institute possible. So we were very excited when we read through the applications to just see the incredible quality and diversity of people who've decided to come join us from across India. So I have a few people to thank. I'm going to reopen my phone so I don't forget anybody. First, a few institutions. There's considerable expense to get 6 academics from Canada to India, especially when you want to fly home 2 days before Christmas, when all the flights sort of double in price. So this institute was only possible through considerable support from the College of Arts and Science, so especially our Associate Dean of Research, Jack Gray, supported this with a considerable grant. And we also had support from the departments of English, History, and Art History, who provided some funding to supplement the funding from the college. And we were given further support recently from the College of Graduate Studies and Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies. Okay, so I think those are all the institutions that helped get us here. I would like to thank my colleagues who agreed to travel here during term break just before Christmas. This is a busy time of year in the Canadian academic calendar. I'm on sabbatical, so it doesn't matter to me at all, but the rest of my colleagues have just finished teaching. Some of them have exams that they're going to be kind of marking well here. So it's really appreciated that when I sent this email 9 or 12 months ago, inviting them to India, they didn't just say no immediately and kind of considered the value of this institute and made time in their schedule to join us. So I very definitely need to thank Raj, who is the driving force, who appeared in my email box, inviting me to do this, insisting that I do this, encouraging, cajoling, until I agreed to do this. And I'm very happy that he convinced me to come along. A big thanks to the student coordinators. I think you can all appreciate just how smoothly things have run so far. Everything has been considered and taken care of, and they're immediately here to help with every little detail. A big thanks to IIT and the Shatri Institute for funding on the Indian side of the equation. They are also essential in making this possible. And finally, a huge thanks to Annapurna. We're co-organizers, but that's kind of absurd because I am not a local organizer, so I had no involvement in figuring out where you were going to sleep, who was going to feed you, how we were going to transport you around. All of those little details fell entirely on IIT to organize. So I really appreciate all the work that you've done to make this possible. Last year I organized a 3-day event with about the same number of people and had 5 people to help me, and I have a small idea of how much work you must have done over the past 6 months to make this possible. So many thanks to all these people, and I just want to finish with a couple quick thoughts. You're going to hear too much from me over the next few days and this afternoon in particular, so I'm going to try not to say too much that I'm just going to end up repeating myself. But just 2 kind of key things on why it's kind of imperative that we start thinking about digital studies, digital humanities in our research, but also in our classrooms. So we are all digital scholars now, even people who don't self-identify. Everybody's using Google Books, the Internet Archive, all kinds of digital tools. Every historian that I know of is using online databases of digitized historical newspapers or manuscripts. So we've all become digital over the past 20 years. But many of us have not reflected on that, and we still, in our citation practices, pretend that we're looking at the physical copy of these digitized resources. We pretend that we aren't using a keyword search, and we haven't put a lot of thought into what algorithms are driving those searches. What are the limitations of these new technologies? Because we were never trained. I was not trained a minute in my formal program from undergrad through to PhD in anything digital. A professor took me aside who wasn't even on my committee and mentioned that digital cameras are very helpful for archives in 2006. And that might be as close as I got to a formal education. All my digital education I had to seek out on my own. And I don't think that's changed that much in the 15 years since I began graduate school. So it's really important that we actually start training students to use digital methods well, even the more basic things like advanced search and the use of online databases like JSTOR and the Internet Archive. How do you use them properly and correctly and thoughtfully? And how do you understand what the search engine is actually doing? And then secondly, so I think of this from the perspective of a historian. How is a historian going to study the Indian Ocean tsunami? The archive that exists for that event, which is now kind of reaching that 10 to 15 year window where historians might start to consider it as a part of history, not current events. That has all kinds of social media response. The internet is full of reflections, personal reflections, these things that we dream about when we study the history of the 19th century. How did normal people respond to this event? But the scale of this information is immense. We can't use traditional methods of just reading, Facebook post by Facebook post, blog post by blog post, and the many thousands of local newspaper articles that would be available if we just punch that topic into a Google search engine. So we're very quickly approaching a period where if we want to do good scholarship, we need computational methods to support our traditional social science and humanities approaches. It's a nice advantage for historians like me working on the 19th century, but as we move into the period where there's a born digital archive, it's become almost an infinite archive. And so we need to train the next generation, the students who are starting undergrad this year, and there's one or two of you in the audience here, who might be writing a dissertation in 7 or 8 years and whose career could extend 50 years into the future. These students need to start learning the tools that are going to be necessary to write history in 5 to 10 years, because you can't write history of the internet age without having some computational methods to support that work. Okay, thank you very much. I look forward to the rest of the 2 weeks.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to invite to the podium our mentor, Dr. Raj Srinivasan, a faculty member in mathematics and statistics at the University of Saskatchewan, to come and address the audience.
Good morning. So welcome to the Winter Institute on Digital Humanities. So this is our first Winter Institute. I already run 2 Summer Institute. I see Tanissa is sitting in the audience, who was the organizer of the first Summer Institute. And before I say anything about this, how this institute kind of came to, first of all, I would like to bring greetings from my president, Peter Stoichev, and also the Dean of College of Arts and Science, Peter Bonham-Smith, who were here in India last week visiting several universities. Unfortunately, they couldn't come to IITGN, but your director had a chance to meet with them in Delhi, and they are aware of what I'm doing with University of Saskatchewan and IIT Gandhinagar. So I would like to start saying that this is a great place for me to visit. Okay, every time I come here, I get a new idea, I get inspired, I work on for a couple of years and bring the event back here. And IIT Gandhinagar is one of the proudest international partner of University of Saskatchewan. So we are the most active research, we have the most active research collaboration between the 2 universities. So as I said, this is my 3rd institute running like kind of a summer institute or winter institute on topics in humanities and social sciences. This is what is unique about our relationship between University of Saskatchewan and IIT Gandhinagar. To the world outside, IIT Gandhinagar is just a technical institute, right? To the world outside, in Canada and North America, we are the only few colleges left which combines arts and science. Okay, so in arts and science, we have 21 departments, okay, most basically all the science departments, humanities and social sciences. For us to get together and organize things, and also more importantly, given the Indian context, for IIT Gandhinagar to host, okay, summer institutes on topics such as global health, social justice, and now digital humanities. Okay? This is a great accomplishment for a technical institute like IIT Gandhinagar. This wouldn't have happened without the collaboration or the leadership of your director and my institute. Okay? And I really just again wanted to acknowledge the financial support provided by the College of Arts and Science. As Jim was telling, it's not easy to travel in December and get cheap tickets. Okay, it's expensive to bring 6 or 7 people here. And I also appreciate the constant encouragement from IIT Gandhinagar in providing local support for local kind of guest speakers from India, and as well as supporting the students. Okay? So the purpose of these institute is to start finding out, are there any potential research collaboration between the 2 institutes? Can we find, how do we start the research collaboration? So that's the main purpose. And the other purpose is to train students and teachers all over India on topics such as humanities and social sciences, okay, to provide them like kind of what's going on in the leading aspects of each and every subject. So I think that the collaboration between University of Saskatchewan and IIT Gandhinagar is really providing an opportunity for the students and teachers to get trained. And I understand that India is lacking in capacity in terms of PhDs in many fields. There are institutions that has almost 60% vacancies. So they are looking for people having qualified PhDs. So maybe these kind of summer institutes and winter institutes provide a start for those students and teachers who are willing to pursue PhDs. So with that, I thank you all for coming. I don't know much about digital humanities. I know a little about digital, something about humanities, but I was just sitting there. I'm a mathematician, but I have a very good connection to digital humanities. Okay, Jim mentioned about Google searches. The only mathematics that has made money in this world directly is the Google company. Not only just money, billions and billions of dollars. Behind every Google searches, there's a concept called Markov chain. Without it, the Google does not work. The Google search does not work. So I'm not totally estranged to the idea of digital humanities. I feel a little bit connected. I'm hoping that at the end of this 2 weeks workshop, I will understand the two words together, digital humanities, as opposed to only understanding digital and humanities separately. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would request our guest of honor, Dr. Prachi Kaul, Director of the Shastri Indo-Canadian Institute, to address the audience.
Good morning. And it's a really good morning to see all of you here because the idea of digital humanities, it's a new idea that has actually germinated long back, but the nuances of it are going to be discussed in this 2 weeks affairs that you are going to have. To begin with, I really want to congratulate the two universities, the institutions that have come together to have this kind of endeavor. IIT Gandhinagar and University of Saskatchewan. I'm very proud to say that both of these institutions have been long-standing members of Shastri Indo-Canadian Institute, which is a binational organization. We are, for last 50 years, have been on the educational corridor between the two countries and trying to connect institutions, connect persons specifically to nurture their ideas, to carry forward the agenda of collaboration. So I'm very pleased to be part of this event today, especially with this inaugural. My congratulations to Annapurna and Dr. Clifford for setting this up and the opportunity that you have provided to this diverse group. And yesterday when I just landed, and after that I had a 15-20 minutes chat with Dr. Rath, and she was telling me the diversity within this group. And I really want to congratulate that if you have believed in the idea, I'm sure you are going to take it forward. Never get disappointed because the whole 2 weeks schedule is quite intensive, and there are going to be things that you are going to discuss may not directly, appeal to you. But, and there may be a couple of issues that will ignite a kind of, idea or thought for you to take it further in your research or in your any endeavor that you plan to take up further. There are going to be issues that are not going to be much of interest to you as well. I hope you get interested in each and every component of it. But those things are going to be in sleeping state in your mind and will be of effect in due course of time. I strongly believe that, and it's going to, you're going to witness that in due course of time, that something that you have learned out of this workshop is going to be really helping you or enabling you to devise an idea or thought around that particular concept. This is a program that builds up young mind, builds up the character, builds up the nature of the studies that you are going to take up further in your life, not just for this particular 2 weeks, but whatever you do in due course of time. Integrating science, integrating arts, integrating humanities and social sciences is very, very important. We all are aware of the fact, but how to do that? I would say that we are already doing it, but how effectively we are doing it is a question here, and I think this workshop is going to help you to understand best way, the mechanism, how to integrate these disciplines, make it really wonderful and comprehensive in your approach. So thanks again for giving me this opportunity to address this diversified group. I wish you all the best for 2 weeks. And to conclude, the two teams from IIT Gandhinagar and IIT and University of Saskatchewan, led by Dr. Jan and Peter, I think congratulations to them as well, because nurturing any idea is not easy. As Dr. Rath was saying that seeing is believing, Dr. Jan have been observing very closely the work that is being done by this particular department, humanities and social sciences, or otherwise as well. And understanding the nuances of it, he thought that probably it's good to support. And that is, I think, is wonderful thing to happen for all of us. In a similar manner, I think what Shastri does is believing your newer ideas, and this is a kind of example that I would like to place in front of you, that if there is anything new that comes your way, try and support that if you think there is some value in this thought. So keep doing good work, take advantage of what you have been provided right now, and take best of enrichment from University of Saskatchewan and IIT Gandhinagar resource persons that they have put on. Wonderful. Thank you so much once again, and I wish you all the very best for 2 weeks. Thank you. Just to add to here, I come from an institute which is, I said that trying to provide linkages between institutions in India and Canada, and also person-to-person connect. All of you are young, vibrant, and have so many ideas to inculcate and to take it forward. We have very many programs that supports these kind of ideas. So if you're a young scholar, you're a master's undergrad program, you are doing your PhD, you are doing your postdoc, you are a faculty, there are ample opportunities to collaborate with Canada. So I would like to encourage you to go to the website of Shastri Indo-Canadian Institute, look for the program that can allow you to nurture these relations. So apply for these fellowships and grants and get benefited. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to invite Dr. Sudhir K. Jain, our patron and session chair, to address the inaugural session.
Thank you. Delighted to be here, ladies and gentlemen, today. I usually avoid attending events in IIT Gandhinagar, but this particular event, there is no way I could have avoided, and you will see why. I think this is a very, very important activity, and you will understand towards the end of what I have to say. We are an 11-year-old college. We were set up in 2008, and we said to ourselves that many of us get a chance to teach in a university or to run a university, but very few of us get a chance to create a university. And we said that is a very valuable opportunity, and that should be taken a very serious note of, that we are not in an old institution, we are in a new institution. You could look at it in a different way. You could say we are a new institution, therefore we didn't have campus. When Raj Srinivasan brought 10 or 12 scholars from Saskatchewan, we didn't have even a room like this, we didn't have a campus, we didn't have any infrastructure of worth mention. So you could say that, oh, we don't have this, we don't have that, but we thought, no, let's not look at that. Let's look at what we have that others don't have. And that was youth, that was the ambition, that was the hope, that was opportunity to create something altogether new. And therefore we said, can we remain an IIT but be a different IIT? Can we do the right things that our peer institutions, which are 50, 60, 70-year-old, would like to do but cannot do? Why they cannot do? It is like my body is so rigid now, I can't bend myself the way a 1-year-old child can bend. As a 1-year-old college, we could bend ourselves, we can be flexible, we can do things that a 60-year-old college cannot do. And we said, what are those things? And to define that, we said, we will first be very clear why we are here. We are here for 3 things. We are here for students. for us, students are our highest priority. It is very, very unfortunate that many of us teach classes as a burden because we don't like to teach. It is not a place for those people here. We like people who really like students, who think that they are here for the students. And for a student is not the student who is paying tuition fee to IIT Gandhinagar. For a student is a student, can be in India, can be outside India, can be inside IIT Gandhinagar, can be in Ahmedabad, can be in Chennai, can be in Kashmir, it doesn't matter to us. A student is a student is a student. The second thing that we said to ourselves is that we are here not for creating our credentials. You see, a lot of times people do research because it enables them to publish and makes them feel good. It makes them being able to say that, look, how big I am as a scholar, my article has been published in such and such journal. That's not what we are for. We are here for making an impact. We are here for making a difference. How do you make a difference? You make a difference by taking up interesting problems, for doing interesting things. Why would somebody trust you with an interesting problem and money to do that? They need your credentials. So while we think that credentials are a necessary condition in order to make an impact, they are not the end by itself. What does it mean? It means that if I were to hire a young student, if I were to hire a young faculty, obviously I will hire them based on their credentials. But we don't want 50-year-old professors talking about only credentials. We want them to be talking about impact. They should be talking about how they change the world, how they change their lives, how they change the students, how impactful their presence was, how the taxpayers' money spent on them was well spent. To us, that is the second important thing. The third important thing for us is that we want to be very global in our ambitions. We want to be very global in our outlook, and yet we want to be very grounded. We want to not run away from the realities of the country, of the society in which we are situated. And a very fine example of that is, we are perhaps the only institution in the country where 40 or 45% of our undergraduates leave the institute after 4 years, after having been outside India at least once, fully paid, not depending on the parents' money. And we also are having 40% of our undergraduates, 45% of our undergraduates, would graduate from IIT Gandhinagar after experiencing what is called Explorer Fellowship, where in 38,000 rupees, they would spend 42 days in the country, traveling length and breadth of India on an extremely low budget, where they are supposed to travel ordinary second class, not air-conditioned class, in a hot summer, where they will have to sleep in dharamshalas, they'll have to sleep on the railway platforms, they will have to save money to eat food. This is a life-transforming experience for these students to understand what India is all about. So that is what I mean by having global ambitions, global aspirations, but being very grounded. These are the three things that define us, I think, in some ways, in terms of our aspirations. And where does this humanities and social science fit in this place? Where does, in these three baskets, it does fit in? The idea here is that the graduates that you produce, the engineering graduates that you produce or the humanities graduates that you produce, they must be different. If we are going to put so much focus on the student, then the students should show that they are different, which means that they are problem solvers, which means they're interdisciplinary, which means that they are not hiding behind the curtain and saying, oh, I am civil engineer and this is an electrical engineering problem, or I'm an electrical engineer and this is a mathematics problem, or I'm a computer scientist and this is a humanities problem. They will be interdisciplinary, they will solve the problems, they will be part of the solution, not part of the problem. It means that my entire educational experience has to break the boundaries. I cannot do that if I become very narrow in my outlook, in my curriculum, in my faculty configuration. It also provides us an opportunity to break the silos of disciplinary research. If somebody were to come to IIT Gandhinagar as a faculty member, the kind of opportunities for interdisciplinarity that IIT Gandhinagar provides, we believe that there will be rarely any university anywhere in the world that might have that kind of a opportunity. Let me give this just one example. Recently, I had a colleague from Canada who had attended Shastri, and then later he came to visit me. And I was mentioning to him that 15% of our PhD students have their sole supervisor from different discipline. And he said, co-supervisor. I said, sole supervisor. He said, co-supervisor. I said, listen to me, sole supervisor. And he was shocked. You could be a PhD student in mathematics, and your PhD supervisor could be from any discipline other than mathematics, and you will get a PhD from IIT Gandhinagar. To us, that is the limit to which we will go. What it means is that if you were to come here and not take advantage of that, either as a student or as a faculty, you're really not taking full advantage of what IIT Gandhinagar provides. If you were to come here to IIT Gandhinagar, and somebody like Dr. Annapurna, she must have done her MA in English literature, PhD in English literature, and if she were to come to IIT Gandhinagar and say, I'm an English literature person and I will do what English literature people do in University X, University Y, University Z, she is really not taking full advantage of IIT Gandhinagar. Because she should really look for opportunities where she is really intermingling with people from cross boundaries, from cross disciplines, whether those are within humanities and social science space or whether they are outside humanities and social science space. So that is what we are looking for. We are looking for really scholarship coming out of IIT Gandhinagar, which is interdisciplinary, which is problem oriented, which is not credentials oriented. I don't know how many of you noticed, especially all the students must be here for the first time, and some of my colleagues from Canada must be here for the first time. How many of you noticed that when you entered into the institute, the boundary wall that the institute has is a very different boundary wall? If you have not noticed it, notice it now. Anytime any new university is created in India, and a lot of universities are being created in India, private sector as well as public sector, government money as well as private money, the first thing they do is get the land, make a boundary wall. In our case, we said, we will make the boundary wall later. Let's first get our business going. Why? Because we said boundary wall is our first introduction of what this institute is all about. And we need a lot of thought about designing that boundary wall. Because boundary wall is something that you notice even if you have no connection with IIT Gandhinagar, but you are passing through that highway. And we said our boundary wall should convey our transparency. It should convey our inclusiveness. It should convey that you are welcome. If somebody is driving through that highway and he notices that boundary wall, he should see something happening inside and he should say, can I drive in? Can I see what is happening? He should be able to walk into our library and read the books and talk to the librarian and say, how can I borrow your books? Somebody totally stranger should be able to walk into our institute and should be able to avail the facilities in the institute. That is our ambition. In fact, one of our very interesting programs that people get very surprised about is called non-degree program. Our challenge is any student, any non-student who wants to learn from IIT Gandhinagar will not shut its door on it. As I speak to you today, we just had 10 students from different engineering colleges who stayed at IIT Gandhinagar for one full semester, stayed in our hostel, did our courses, paid our fees as if they were our students. And they were given the grading A, B, A minus, B plus, the way it is given to our students. These are full-time students elsewhere who came to spend one full semester here. But somebody else who says, I want to come and do this course on digital humanities being taught by Professor Rath, we will register that student and we will give him the grade for that. People get very surprised about that. Now, when you look at the winter school that we are today starting, I think it meets all the things that IIT Gandhinagar talks about. And I will explain to you, and that is why I wanted to be here today. What does winter school involve? It is focused on students. We have collected, 40 almost? 41 students from across the country. Want to be very inclusive. We have 41 students, brightest that we can find in this country, who have gathered here, and we are very delighted to host them here and be part of their journey for academic pursuits. This whole thing was envisaged that this will be not taught only by IIT Gandhinagar faculty, but it will be a global enriching experience. And we have now a very strong faculty, both from Canada and I understand some people from India. And 23 Indian speakers, wonderful, good. Very, very interdisciplinary. As Raj Srinivasan said, Google would not have been created if people did not understand the society and they didn't understand the mathematics. And to me, this is really what the topic is all about, right? So very, very interdisciplinary. So my contention is today that this winter school really meets many, many items that will be very high on the priority for leadership at IIT Gandhinagar. For people who understand IIT Gandhinagar, they really would understand what it is all about. We are extremely grateful for the partnerships that we have. University of Saskatchewan, some of the speakers talked about the tickets, somebody talked about expensive tickets, Christmas time, December. I think that is all trivial as compared to the time that they have given. I think if you look at the scholars who are traveling 20 hours, 24 hours, 27 hours to be here, to be able to talk to you, to lecture to you, to share their knowledge, I think that time is what is important. Somebody can buy the ticket, but how do you buy the time of a scholar? And I think I'm most grateful to the colleagues from Saskatchewan and their administration, their deans, their people who made it happen. The Shastri has been a new entity as far as my own understanding is concerned. First time I heard about Shastri was around 2011 when there was a conference in Calgary. I think that conference was in 2012 or something. And I happened to have the opportunity to participate in it and understand what it is all about. I think this is a very fine example of building academic connections between Canadian academics and Indian academics, and we are very, very grateful to Shastri Foundation for Shastri Institute for being part of it, and for Dr. Prachi Kaul to be able to spend time. I know she just finished a very, very high-profile conference in Delhi, and I know how much aftermath of that conference must be. So the fact that she came to personally join us today must be quite a bit of stretch for her, and we are very grateful. Things like these don't happen in thin air. They happen because of passion and commitment of individuals. And I think in Dr. Annapurna Rath, we have a very enthusiastic, very engaged, very committed colleague at IIT Gandhinagar who just takes anything and takes it to a logical end, puts all her energy, all her resources on it. And Annapurna, we are very proud of what you have done here today. Thank you, and I hope you will keep doing it. Professor Clifford, we are thankful to you, and nothing like Raj Srinivasan, the mathematician who was very reluctant to talk to me. First time I met him in Calgary because he thought I was doing a sales job on him. I was trying to get him to come to IIT Gandhinagar, and he was just not letting me move. But I think after a couple of meetings, he understood that we are a little bit more serious than many others that had perhaps asked him to be engaged. And he has been a very, very strong supporter of the Institute and of the collaboration between Saskatchewan and IIT Gandhinagar. I would not imagine that without him, the Saskatchewan would be having the kind of partnership that we have with them today. And finally, to the students who have come from elsewhere in the country, I hope you will learn good digital humanities, but I hope that is not the only thing you will do. Ours is a very nice campus. Go around, experience it, see what is interesting things happening, ask questions. There are certain publications about the campus on the internet. There are hard copies we can provide to you if you are so interested. Maybe Annapurna, you can keep one set of those publications outside if somebody wants. They can pick up those copies, but there are all soft copies are available on the internet. How did we design the classrooms? How did we think about the academic area? How did we think about the hostel? Why did we design the hostel the way we have designed? All of that we have documented. How is it that we use water? How is it that we optimize the use of water? How is it that the rooftop water we actually use for drinking? How is it that all the sewage that we have, we treat it without mechanical energy through natural plants and use the effluent coming out of that plant back into horticulture? How is it that we have our dining hall where you will be perhaps eating many of your meals? How is it that we have tried to bring thermal comfort without putting air conditioning on it? You will read a lot of that interesting stuff. I hope you will take some time to understand that. But more importantly, I think buildings are easy to create. Buildings are not so difficult to create. I think it is the ethos and the culture that is harder to create. And I hope you will talk to our students. You will just not sit together in your own group, but will penetrate into a group of students eating and talk to them and try to understand that are these students any different? Because if their head of the institution is talking about all this, is it really percolating down to the students? And I challenge that perhaps you will find that there is something very, very interesting that is happening in the student culture and student values. And as I said, we are a very inclusive institution. I hope this will be your first but not the last visit. You will find ways to engage with our faculty, to engage with our students, and we are always happy to receive back any of our visitors, whether they are students or they are scholars. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you will have a very fruitful 2 weeks winter school. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.